The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
West Brom have beaten Portsmouth to the signing of a Birmingham City defender. West Bromwich Albion are reportedly closing in on the signing of Birmingham City defender Christian Bielik, with a deal expected to be completed before the weekend. The Baggies have been on the search for a replacement for Torbjorn Hegem, expected to leave for Bologna in a mega £10 million deal, and Bielik has been pursued. The Poland international, Blues' current captain, boasts plenty of championship experience and remains in his prime years. Ryan Mason has already added centre-halves Nat Phillips and George Campbell to his defensive ranks this summer, but another new face was needed as Kyle Bartley recently announced his retirement and Hegem isn't expected to be around for much longer. It's come rather out of nowhere, but West Brom are set to secure Bielik's services imminently to complete their defensive puzzle. Football League World reports Albion have reached a full agreement to sign Bielik for a fee just in excess of £1 million, seeing off 3 other clubs in the process. Portsmouth were the other championship club interested in Bielik, but they missed out as the 27-year-old wanted to remain in the West Midlands. The Hawthorns was seen as an ideal destination, as Bielik won't need to move from where he has become settled, and he's also expected to gain a regular starting spot. Formerly of Arsenal, having graduated from the Gunners' Youth Academy, Bielik will be fondly remembered by Birmingham supporters. The defender racked up 125 appearances for Blues across all competitions, and stayed with the club through thick and thin, even when relegated down to League One.
So, assuming this is true, then we've missed out, which is unfortunate. He seems to me to be pretty well priced at £1 million. When I say well priced, it sounds to me as though he could be a little bit overpriced there, but who knows? He sounds like a nice guy. He sounds very down to earth. He stuck with them when they were relegated. That's always a good sign, isn't it? But most of all, if it's true, he has said out loud something that we at Pompey Sound have suspected a great many footballers have to take into consideration when it comes to being transferred. The geography of it, the simple fact that he is settled living in the Midlands. And he didn't want to up sticks and come and either live somewhere rented, perhaps leaving his family up in the Midlands because they're settled there. Maybe he's got kids, maybe they're at school, maybe they've got groups of friends that they're happy with. All those sorts of things are important to human beings, but we tend to forget that footballers are human beings and often encouraged by their clubs to become family people. So a refreshing sounding fella, and we wish him well, except of course when we come to play against him next.
It's been revealed that Michael Eisner flew over from America last week.
Whoa, correction. We know that Eric Eisner was here. We don't know that Michael Eisner was here. And until we do, let's just settle for saying an Eisner, probably Eric.
Discussions over Pompey's remaining transfer activity was on the agenda during Eric Eisner's latest Fratton Park trip. And John Messineo expects owners Tornante to sanction more signings before the September deadline. He says,
"We talked about absolutely anything and everything from football to non-football, and everything in between, as we always do whenever any of the owners are over, any of the owners' family, or anyone from the board. We always have a good chat, a good sit down, and take a snapshot of where we are as a football club, and make sure we are all aligned. We talk to the owners all the time about transfers and have regular calls, and always keep each other updated on where both parties are at. There are official lines of communication. We speak via email, via text, via phone. Andy Cullen, Tony Brown and Rich Hughes are always in communication with the owners as well. So there's a very, very fluid system we have, and it works really well, and I expect more business before the end of the window."
Oh, to have been a fly on the wall, eh? I do know for a fact that John Messineo is an enormous fan of baseball. He fell in love with it when he lived there because his family were working just outside Chicago, and he fell in love with the game. Probably not quite as much as he loves football, but he loves his baseball. And if there's a baseball game on, sometimes they bring a couple of teams over to play a proper competitive game at Wembley, I think. I know that John likes to attend, and he knows his stuff. And all most red-blooded American adults are steeped in the heritage of baseball. So that would have been an enjoyable conversation. But they obviously talked about football as well. Eric's presence suggests that they wanted to do a face-to-face because the club, in particular John Messino and Rich, and I guess the other guys, are hassling, is that the right word, on campaigning for more money because they would like to spend some money. And at the end of their chats, John says, and I can quote him here, "I expect more business before the end of the window." Now, that doesn't mean to say we're going to be spending 5 and 10 million quid on somebody, but it does make it clear that when he says more business, it appears to be clear that he's talking about buying someone or some people. Of course, a loan, borrowing another player, and we're very good at that, that's business too. So there is an element of ambiguity about the "I expect more business before the end of the window." I think it's unlikely that Eric would have flown over in order to sanction the expenditure of a steep salary on a loan player from one of the big boys. But that is possible. Or maybe he just likes it here. He likes it here. He likes it more than dear old Baelic.
John Messino hits back at negative criticism of new players. He says, "We will be patient with all the players. It's a long, long season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We want to win games as quickly as possible. But at the same time, we've got examples in the past where you have seen the patience we've shown in players has paid off. I have vivid memories of a game in October 2023 where there was a lot of frustration at Fratton Park at Abu Kamara's performance and how he had probably started his Pompey career. This was in a season where we ended up winning League One, and he was one of the outstanding players. In his first league start for Pompey, I subbed him off at half-time against Leyton Orient, even though we were winning 2-0, because he looked a bit out of his depth. He was fine. It was his first away trip with a senior side, the first time he'd actually competed in the league, and it just took a bit of time. It's a young lad adjusting to the system, adjusting to Pompey, adjusting to Fratton Park. He's a really good example of players, whether they are loan players or not, just needing a bit of time. It's the same with loan players. It's the same with permanence. Everybody we've signed this summer are at varying degrees of their journeys into a Pompey career. If you look at the likes of Seggs, who has really hit the ground running, he was in the building from day one. He's pretty much part of the furniture. He doesn't feel like a new signing for me. We've had him around for so long because we signed him so early in the summer. Others are just going to take a bit more time, and that's fine.
Yeah, on the subject of getting on the back of young Pompey players before they've had a chance to find their feet, the News and Neil Allen writing today, well, not writing, but reporting what somebody else is saying, a member of the public, a fan, have let themselves down a little bit, which is rare for them because they carry a good bat, do the News, and Neil Allen in particular. But allowing this chap, who is described as gaffer for the day, to come down on Hugh Yang, call him at the moment whatever is convenient, we know who we're talking about, and said that he was disappointing. This was against Reading. And said that he wants him to go at defenders. Well, Abu Kamara, as John Messino reminds us, as if people need reminding, Abu Kamara didn't hit the ground running. And he was carefully handled by John Messino, gradually improved, and turned into one of our players of the title-winning season. And 99.9% of Pompey fans would have loved to have kept him, and would still, I suspect, welcome him with open arms. This is a player who got a lot of flack in what we call the terraces during his first couple or three games for Pompey, finding his feet. And that's what the Korean is up to as well. Then, of course, you have the sad case of Sami Silvera, who was appallingly treated by a small section of Pompey fans. It was an embarrassment to the rest of us. Now he's gone away, worked on his game, been worked on, had his confidence improved, and apparently he is absolutely flying at his parent club, Middlesbrough, doing what he could have done for us if he'd managed to develop his confidence in the way that Abu Kamara did. That's partly down to the player, of course. So adverse criticism, any of it, especially that which gets a headline in the news, okay, could go one of two ways. The club will do their best with the player will do his best with himself. If he has the strength of character to endure that kind of public negativity on very little evidence, frankly. If he has the power to do that, then it is yet another feather in his cap, because he is clearly a player with enormous potential, the potential to become world class. And we've been entrusted with him for a year. We all have to look after him. It's our duty as people, never mind about football fans. So, well done, John Messino, for pointing that out, much more diplomatically than someone like myself is capable of doing. I say simply this. Yes, you're entitled to your own opinion, but if it's not going to do any good, keep it to yourself.
The 72 have asked their team for predictions for Norwich, starting with Harry Mayle. Portsmouth dug deep to get their opening day win at Oxford United and will be in good spirits. Pompey are carrying momentum from that victory and should be in confident mood. John Messinio's side were very strong at Fratton Park last season. They made their home a fortress and will be looking to do the same in this campaign. Norwich City will be desperate to bounce back from their defeat to Millwall. NCFC won't want to start this term with 2 defeats on the spin. The Canaries will be in for a tough test here though in Hampshire. I can see them slumping to another loss if they aren't careful. Prediction: Portsmouth 2, Norwich City 1. James Ray. Fratton Park was an absolute fortress for Portsmouth last season and proved key in keeping them up. If they're to improve on their 2024-25 efforts, then it will be again. Norwich City are not an easy side to welcome to the South Coast though. They only lost to another playoff hopeful in Millwall on the opening day, and with some star players and a great boss in place, I don't think it'll take them long to find form. There's a good amount of new signings and fresh partnerships for Pompey to work out, and that might just open the door to NCFC, but the same can be said for them. As such, with both these sides a work in progress, I'll say this one ends level at 1-1, which isn't an awful result for either. Prediction: Portsmouth 1, Norwich City 1.
Right, so just in case it went over anybody's head, NCFC is another way of saying Norwich. This is because trained journalists are discouraged from using the same word more than once in a paragraph. So instead of saying Norwich this and Norwich that, which you or I wouldn't care about, they come up with the Canaries, of course, which is fair enough, but they've also come up with NCFC, which is a bit silly. And since I'm feeling a bit liverish today, I'm a bit fed up with everybody referring to us as a fortress. There must be some other descriptions of Fratton Park which carry the same weight, but at least show a little bit of original thought has gone into using the English language. As to their predictions, both these guys predicted that Pompey would win by a solitary goal against Oxford. Then there's a but, with the but being that they both said 2-1 to Pompey. And now we've got Pompey 2, Norwich City from Harry, isn't it? And James Ray is going 1-1 Portsmouth, Norwich City. I think quite a few of us would take either result, wouldn't we? James Ray hints at that. Not a bad result for either. So I think we probably would take 1-1 against Norwich. But, I mean, obviously, state the obvious, go on. We'd rather it was Portsmouth 2, Norwich City 1, or NCFC 1, or the Canaries 1. You get my point.
King of the correct score, Steve Bone.
I'm going to predict Pompey 3, Norwich 1.
Wow.
I'm still confident at the moment. They could all come crashing down by 2:20 on Saturday afternoon, but I think tails will be up after our win last weekend. I think you remember how good we were at home last season for most of last season. Not at the start. It took a little while, didn't we? But once Colby came into that team, we were very good at home. We were very difficult to play against and difficult to defend against. There were a number of games where we scored 3 or 4.
You can hear the whole of Steve Bone's excellent piece. He does a weekly piece for Pompey Sound, which is played out across our output. But if you want to dip into his podcast, then go to your podcast provider, whoever you use, and type in Pompey Sound podcast. And it's the one that begins with the word, obviously, Steve. And Steve's predictions, correct score predictions, are becoming legend last season. He was not only about the only person to predict that we would beat Leeds, but he actually got the score right on that occasion, which would have been a good price. And I've just looked up the 3-1 to beat Norwich on Saturday, and that is a juicy 25-1. Obviously, gamble responsibly, and don't use money that you can't afford, as they say, quite rightly. Have fun, and let's hope Pompey have fun on the field and in the bookies on Saturday. 3-1 to Pompey. Man's got guts.